Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to Unit Lost. I am Stylosa and welcome to Pro OverAnalyzed. Today, we're going to take a look at the USA, the mighty USA versus the even mightier South Korea from the Overwatch World Cup 2017. This is going to be one of the greatest games you will ever see, ladies and gentlemen. This was a phenomenal series. I highly recommend you go and check out all of the games. So I would like to introduce you guys to Josh, one amongst many, Pemberton, who is, in my opinion, the best Overwatch analyst there is. He will break this game down in super detail for you guys. Hopefully, it will be awesome. I'll be looking for feedback in the comments below, guys, so go easy on Josh. He is a legend. He's a great friend of mine, and I am really looking forward to seeing this Pro OverAnalyzed. All right, guys, enjoy the show.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, hello, my name is Josh, one amongst many, Pemberton and Stylosa, so kindly introduce me. Today we're going to take a look at the USA versus South Korea. We're going to look at Hanamura, game number 3. Let me set the scene for you just a tiny bit. In Hanamura, the teams are tied 1-1. The USA have managed to do the unthinkable, and they've managed to bloody the nose of the giants that are South Korea. Now then, let's just get into this match. It's such a privilege for me to bring this to you on Stylosa's channel, of course. It's a huge honor for me, so let me know your feedback as well when we get started, and let me know what you guys think. Now then, just as we're beginning, let's just take a quick look at the team comps, just to really sort of set the scene for us. We have the South Korean team set up lovely here. They are running this very tanky, stodgy comp. You can see they've got the Aurora and the Roadhog in their tank lineup. That means that they are going to be very durable, very static as well. They have Flower here on the Junkrat, who will be sort of spamming away, just trying to control that choke as much as possible. And then you have S-ATAIII on the Tracer as well, who will be running around, hunting down those wounded targets, those targets that are taking a lot of the spam damage that Junkrat and Aurora can put out, and killing them off. S-ATAIII is a very hunter-killer style of Tracer. He likes to find people, 1 versus 1 people, and kill them down. Of course, you have the standard support lineup these days, Toby on the Mercy and Ryujie Hong on that Zenyatta. And just a quick look at the US team. They're going to do something a little bit special, a little bit different. We'll highlight that when it happens. But just for now, they have Jake running that Soldier 76. Jake, the main DPS of the United States. Sinatra, the main flanker player on that Tracer. Adam, regarded as one of the best Mercies in the world on the Mercy, of course. Raucus on that Zenyatta. Fact Fiction, the main tank player on the Winston. And Coolant 69, wonderful name by the way, on that Diva. Alright guys, let's hop into it and let's get the show on the road. And so here we go. The gates are about to open. The USA, like I said, have bloodied the giants that are South Korea. They've managed to take a map off them, and that was unprecedented. A lot of people expected South Korea to go completely clean here. But you can see the US, they're going to roll out. They go in all these different directions. They sort of cover an entire web and start seeing what the enemy team are running. And instantly, Jake and Fact Fiction turn around and change their hero lineup. They change to counter what South Korea are running because it's very tight, it's very stacked together. Mano and Zumba on that Roadhog and Aurora. They're going to just try and go for the Junkrat and the Roadhog. They're going to try and pull them apart, do a lot of damage, break those Aurora shields nice and quickly maybe, and get a couple of good picks off that. Now a little bit of a mistake happens here. Coolant gets a bit out of position, Zumba lands a good hook, and it does end up killing the Diva, forces out the res early. But the United States, they don't panic, they just step back a little bit, they take their time. Jake stands in a nice and safe position where he can just spam over, and he gets the beautiful pick on to Toby, which is the Mercy player. That's a good go signal for the US. They know that they can go in. Unfortunately, they lose the support of their own, but it's not too big of a deal. Losing the Mercy is far bigger. Beautiful trap also comes in from Jake, trapping Zumba there. That's why he just stood still. And the US just sweep in and clean up the entirety of the South Korean team. Now they can start swinging onto the point, take control of the point, and, well, have pretty much the easiest time. And of course, they get an absolute beauty of a bomb here on S-ATAIII. Poor lad had no chance there as he tried to blink into it. Well, he just blinked into an explosion. Really, he blinked and went into about 60 different places, ladies and gentlemen. It was rather insane. But yeah, very well done by the US there. Just very clean, very stable. And even though they lost sort of the first hero, it didn't matter. They just reacted wonderfully. Now you can see them pushing on to second point. Raucus managing to get a pick on Flower, has managed to bait out the res. They sort of spot out, okay, well, they're fighting into a Junkrat still, so they're not going to really want to go this way. There's just too much spam. It's a bit too risky. Jake, you know, takes a big slap of damage there. He has to sort of back up. So instead, they're going to use this Riptire to sort of act as a beachhead, I suppose, to get on the way in. They don't do anything too fancy with it. They let Winston lead the way, and then they just take out the Diva mech as quickly as they can. And once that Diva mech Widowmaker is gone, it makes it so much easier for something like Sinatra just to go into the backline, drop a pulse bomb onto Ryuji Hong on the Zenyatta, and open things up for them. The United States basically take this entire first, well, attack on Hanamura in 2 pushes, ladies and gentlemen. South Korea are scrambling at the moment. They're desperate. They've got Ryuji Hong just desperately trying to get back onto the point using Transcendence to do so. Mano has swapped to the Mei, is trying to just get out of spawn, but every time he does, Raucus is headshotting him. Flower even getting onto the Bastion, but Jake's taking care of him. Sinatra's taking care of him. It's just so well handled by the United States. It was really inspiring to see them do this, because their play, well, their level of play is just so much stronger than what people are expecting. The United States take that first attack in record time. That's just about as good as you can get on Hanamura. One of the big things I want to emphasize as well is that, well, Toby, the South Korean Mercy, did not manage to get Valkyrie off at all during that entire game. That's actually very impressive considering that they were playing into a Junkrat, so the Junkrat is usually known for charging support ultimates super fast. Ryuji Hong got his off, but you would expect more out of Toby. Because that first pick came down onto him, it became extremely difficult for them to get Valkyrie up and running, to get that double res going, then to make sure that their defense holds for as long as possible. Now we're in for a real treat, ladies and gentlemen, as we do get to see the South Korean offense. And, well, I'm just going to pause it. I am known as the world's biggest Widowmaker fanboy, and I just want to draw your eyes to this peach of a pick at the moment. South Korea going bold, going brave, playing Widowmaker on a stage. Well, let me put it this way, playing Widowmaker on a stream feels stressful. Playing it on that stage, I can only imagine how utterly nerve-wracking it is. But Flower is known for his Widowmaker play, is known to be top tier at it, and we're going to go and see a lesson where. You can also see Fact Fiction there, by the way, if we just pause it. Maybe should have caught that a little bit earlier, but you can just see him floating up here. This is actually a very tricky Winston spot that you can sort of just stay in perpetual float over here, and it lets you drop down and jump onto people. It's very, very nice. Otherwise, we're going to see United States opt for a sort of semi-dive team comp. Again, they're running the Soldier and Tracer, so looking to get a lot of hit scan done, but they're positioned so that they can see South Korea coming out of the spawn. There we go. Coolant instantly spots Widowmaker, and immediately the United States react to it. And you could see just there, just how close it was. Raucus setting himself up on the Zenyatta for a beautiful right click to bring Flower down almost to death, and that would have been absolutely huge. It does give them a little bit of a hint to where the Zenyatta is, but you can see the US are playing super passively, super far back. Now then, a couple of things are about to happen, and I really want to outline them first before we begin this, just so you guys can keep tracking it, because a lot is about to go ahead and take place. So we can see South Korea are pushing in this way. They're going for the US team. The US is over here, and they're going to try and get something done. But one thing they're actually trying to do as well is bait out that Winston pick. They want the Winston to sort of come out and come forward and try and engage on Flower, which is normally what you would expect. South Korea do this time and time again in their matches, where they will use the Widowmaker as bait, then trap and kill the tank. So Fact Fiction has to play a very, very careful game at the moment. The US are going to respond in a beautiful fashion, just managing to clean up the tanks nice and quickly, but it will force the supports to drift over in this direction. This does leave them vulnerable to Flower, and well, we're going to see a couple of missteps, maybe cost the United States on the defense. The big thing that is about to happen, though, is the resurrect targets and the resurrect choices. Who can res who, and the pressure that Widowmaker puts out. The ability to resurrect a high priority target over something low priority is absolutely huge, and I'm going to spoil it now. The resurrects involved are a Winston and a Tracer, and trust me, the Tracer doesn't stay res for long. Let's roll the clip. So here we go, you can see Flower checking his supports, trying to catch that Winston out maybe, but Winston instead opting to go back towards the team. And there we go, you can see he's got the supports in his sights, manages to just catch Raucus, and now Adam cannot go back to really res Raucus. Instead he has to go and res Sinatra, and well, there goes Sinatra, right? And it's some of the most beautiful sniping you've ever seen in your life, ladies and gentlemen. It is amazing to behold. And now the US are just left with 2 tanks and a Mercy, and well, that Mercy ain't gonna last too long, so it's very easy now for Flower to just reposition. It's very easy for South Korea to just take their time. Their respawn distance is nearer. And if the US want to reinforce, they're going to have to reinforce into an area where Widowmaker is covering, and pap, that is that. So Flower putting his stamp of approval onto this match, really making it his own and really starting to shine. Pops off on Sinatra, puts damage on Raucus. It's absolutely no problem. Sabiel comes in with the cleanup, and it's super, super easy. One of the big things I want to draw your attention to as well is that he didn't use Infrasight. He's had it for a good while now, but he's holding on to it. He wants to use it for the next push. They're going to use that to get vision to be able to push deeper into the enemy team and know exactly what the enemy team is doing in defense. Meanwhile, the US have to play so carefully about what they're doing. So you can see he's held on to it all this time. Now that they're ready to go, pops the Infrasight and starts making his way in. He knows where the Mercy is, and they know where the Tracer is crucially as well, because, well, Tracer goes for a pulse bomb, but they could see it coming, so they can dodge it nice and easily. This lets them also start pushing forward, lets them catch Jake there with a beautiful shot and beautiful orbs from Ryujie Hong on the Zenyatta. The supports on the United States have to stay far back, but the tanks are going to start to take initiative as Coolant does scoop up Sabiobi. Sinatra about to play out of his mind at the moment, blinking between the pillars, blinking to get the health pack and just staying out of that line of sight. Enough time for US to start the counter dive, managing to get onto the support, forces Toby into that early Valkyrie as well, and making him work for it at the moment. Now, South Korea are actually going to commit to this. South Korea, they've lost their primary DPS in Flower. They just have Sabiobi left, but you're going to see the depth of skill available to South Korea. Mano constantly doing damage on that Winston. Ryujie Hong always landing hits with the Zenyatta. Sabiobi landing damage with that Tracer, using the bomb to clear out the Diva. They're using all these ultimates, and they're actually starting to win out at the moment, but the crucial mistake is about to come in at the moment, which is, well, they started going into the backline. You might have spotted there that Raucus has actually changed to the Soldier 76. He just wants to get out of spawn faster. He wants to get back to the point faster. Zenyatta can't do that very well, so he swaps the Soldier. But enough damage has happened on the point that it's just Sabiobi and Toby left, the Mercy and the Tracer, and those two aren't enough to actually clear the point fast enough for South Korea to win it. But this is an absolutely pivotal moment in the game, and I'm just going to try and pause it right here. I want to draw your attention to a couple of things. So, Raucus is still on that Soldier 76. Adam has Valkyrie ready, however, so the Mercy alone is probably enough to do enough healing. Flower has just managed to come back, but he managed to sort of come back and de-mech Diva. Coolmat 69 there on the Diva is not in mech at the moment, you can tell by his health bar. He's going to have to go into his spawn, change to another hero, and come back, so he's losing a little bit of ultimate charge as well when he does that. One of the crucial lifelines for the United States as well is Jake here on 77% of his ultimate with the Genji Dragon Blade. So if anything's going to swing this game, it's going to be him. But right now, the US is vulnerable, South Korea are ready to go, and Flower, the man of the hour, is about to sort of go in and really cause some havoc. So let's watch this unfold. So Flower looks for an angle and gets the shot of his dreams. He kills the Mercy. There is no more support. There is no more Valkyrie. Unfortunately, he whiffs the hook a little bit by the looks of things, but he's trying to get sights on Sinatra, but Sinatra does such a good job just staying out of the way. So Fact Fiction being targeted down on the point. Coolmat has to be careful and has to try and contain other threats. Jake dives into the backline, but he's done it on his own. His other diving compatriots are busy elsewhere. They're not able to do anything, so Mano just goes back and scoops him right up. This leaves Widowmaker again free to just sit there and start trying to land these shots, but he's still struggling. Sinatra's dodging, Adam's dodging, they're all evading super well, but it's still the threat of a Widowmaker on the backline, and if you don't respond to that, well, that's gonna happen. Flower just blows poor Fact Fiction's brains out all over the place, and it's looking real good for South Korea at the moment as he tries to land these headshots. Genji goes in with the Dragon Blade to try and neutralize Flower, but crucially used his dash to try and get to the Widow, so he can't get there. Therefore, he just goes for the Zenyatta, and Zenyatta, well, goes for him. He still has Transcendence available. He's able to hold on to the point, keep it going for a little bit longer, and it's looking really good for South Korea at the moment. This Widowmaker has been untouchable and has been able to do so much damage, and once set up there, it's just so easy for Flower. So South Korea managed to equalize, but they still did it slower than the United States. South Korea looking worse than the United States at the moment. Flower showing off the Flower Power Hour, and trust me, I can't say that very well, but Jake, the sort of becoming the big storyline here. Flower versus Jake, the United States versus South Korea. It's really starting to come to a head. And so South Korea prepare to attack again. They have less time, so they attack first, and it looks like they're going to do the same thing again. You can see the US are kind of better prepared for it this time. They've changed their positioning and how certain people are going to be standing in places, and they're going to just be hiding away a little bit more. They've anticipated the Widowmaker and recognized the threat of it, so they're just going to stay out of the way. Otherwise, no major changes so far. Again, Flower taking the same route as before, same Venom Mine as before. It's a good anti-dive Venom Mine. It just puts damage on people, makes them hurt. Unfortunately, Sabiobi, well, Sabiobi basically, he's not going to be able to do too much at the moment. But again, South Korea just taking it easy, playing it careful, stepping back, biding their time, letting Flower try and get into position. But crucially, you're going to see Coolmat do this over and over again on the Diva. It's really nicely done. They know that Widowmaker is so dangerous if she gets onto this little high ground. So every single time she does, you're just going to see Coolmat come up on that Diva, knock him off that perch, and maintain control of it. It's really clever. It's really nicely done by the United States, and it just shows how important it is to try and keep this Widowmaker under control. You can see Flower having to look for different pathways, different angles, because he knows he can't go up there anymore, because if he tries, Coolmat's just going to push him off it. So South Korea having to set up once again, trying to just buy their time. A beautiful headshot there onto the Diva, Discord Orb as well. You can see the US positioning around the back, but now they're going to start going for the dive. Again, just trying to bait something onto their supports and have Flower kill it off. They know how that sort of tactic works, but what they've done here is absolutely stellar. They've managed to cut the US off from their own point. So the US, the US are all over here. They're all playing around in this area, but lads, you want to be over in this place. You want to be defending the point, right? But instead, there's just this line that the US cannot cross at the moment, and it will allow South Korea to start moving onto the point. They've taken it it without firing a single shot, ladies and gentlemen, and that is outstanding. So let's roll the clip. As the footage does go on forward, Coolant pokes his face forward. They do spot out the Widowmaker a little bit. Fact Fiction trying to buy what space he can, trying to get onto the backline as well. Again, Coolant contesting that high ground. Flower gets a bit lucky in that he also gets knocked back onto this perch, so he still has view of the point. He can still start putting damage on it. Shooting through those tiny little fiddly windows is actually quite a big ask. Has to use Infrasight different than last time. Has to sort of use this resource that they probably want to save for the next point, but it does let them line up the shots a little bit better. Fact Fiction lands beautifully on that high ground. That's actually a little bit tricky to do, and it's looking good for the United States. You know, they've managed to sort of use these resources and use these ultimates to hold on, but there was one crucial kind of subtle thing that's happened here that is very, very important. So let me just highlight that. As this fight is done and dusted, Raucous had to use Transcendence. Meanwhile, Ryu Hong, who could have used his own ultimate, who could have used his own Transcendence, didn't have to use it. This means that at the moment, South Korea have a big advantage with the ultimates available to them. The United States had to use Visor, Bomb, Valkyrie, Transcendence, and Diva Bomb to be able to clear the point, but fighting against an enemy Transcendence, they have nothing really to counter it unless Fact Fiction can knock it away. So let's see how South Korea manage this one. Sabiobi stuck in the back line at the moment. It's honestly not too bad a location for Tracer to be in. He can go and find an angle maybe and get onto the Zenyatta. It's not too big a problem. You can see Flower swapping off the Widowmaker at around the 2-minute mark, so he's going to have enough time to build up his ultimate. He's going to have enough time to build up a Dragon Blade, no problem. But the Widowmaker wasn't really working anymore. The United States have adapted very cleverly, and so now they're going for a more solid dive. You're going to see them just start pushing the way in. There goes Fact Fiction trying to jump in, get some damage done. He's put his bubble down, and then he's going to jump back. That leaves him a little bit vulnerable to tanks, by the way. Because he's used that bubble, he can't protect against sort of tank fire. The Diva especially can really do a lot of damage to him, so Fact Fiction has to be careful. Ryuji Hong's taken a huge amount of damage. The United States identify this, dive into it, kill it, force Toby to res, and then scoop up Toby. The sort of baiting out that Mercy is absolutely huge. This means that then Ryuji Hong has to use that Transcendence just to keep the team up and alive. But unfortunately, Transcendence, not the best in the world when you're fighting with a dive comp. As such, well, Mano goes down, the Winston goes down during Transcendence because Ryuji Hong had to run off and go and support his DPS. It's all starting to go wrong basically for South Korea at the moment, and the United States have done something incredible, which is they've beaten South Korea with an ultimate disadvantage, and now they're going to go into the next fight with a big advantage. With 1 minute to spare on the clock, this is do or die time for South Korea. This is when they cannot make mistakes anymore, and everything is starting to come onto the line. Now, what can South Korea do? Well, they can hope to get something off Flower. They can hope to get something off the Dragon Blade, and this next fight is going to be all about setting that Dragon Blade up. You can see Flower poking in a little bit, has to back away. But Sabiobi, going to be man of the hour as well, has to try and land a pulse bomb onto something big and important. If he can do that, then his team has a chance, and he does just that. Raucous holds on, waits for the pulse bomb to detonate, and Adam reses him, as you can see in the top corner. He's going to pick him back up, but that's also going to force Adam to use Valkyrie. You can see he's got no ultimate charge on him at the moment. That means he's committed that ultimate. It also means that if the plan is starting to work for South Korea, if they can bait these ultimates out, then it's going to go really, really nicely for them. Now the next step is to dive onto Raucous. You can see that they're going in there on the back. Raucous activates that Transcendence, and now Flower is free to pull out the Dragon Blade. He goes in, he starts killing people, starts slicing, dicing. No, it all goes wrong. He just ends up in a corner, starts slashing at Winston. No one cares about that. Winston doesn't care about that. And the DPS kill him. Sinatra turns around and does it, lands the shots. Jake lands the shots as well. Unfortunately, Flower goes down, but the res picks him up again, and that resurrect advantage as Toby gets Valkyrie ready again, being able to bring up more people after the United States have already had losses, is just enough to start swinging the fight. Because South Korea lasted that little bit longer, forced the ultimates out from the United States that little bit earlier, or United States were just a bit too gung-ho, because Sabiobi, for example, cut off Jake's tactical visor by killing the Soldier 76. All these little mini plays all started to add together to make it so that South Korea could take the point despite a disadvantage. So even if you're down in ultimates, if you play better, if you outplay your enemies, you can absolutely win fights. It's never over, and that's part of why I love Overwatch so very much. Now then, South Korea have 30 seconds to take the point. There is no room for error at the moment. They have to get this right. They have to get this absolutely perfect, and they know that they committed a lot of resources into doing this. Sabiobi, though, gets a lot of space here as he starts to move around the side. He's looking for an angle. They're looking for where the supports are, maybe. They spot them out in the back corner. They're all grouped up. No one sees Sabiobi go in. He drops the pulse bomb and gets Raucous. That's the res forced out nice and early. Winston, who was trying to contest the point, takes tons of damage, goes down. They wanted that res on the Winston. They didn't want to have to res Zenyatta, together, and that's going to make all the difference as Mano comes up big on that monkey ultimate, jumps on two people, kills both supports in the corner, and that is that, ladies and gentlemen. South Korea do take the point in amazing fashion. It's just a few positional mistakes, just not spawning out SATAIII. Maybe they needed Sinatra to go and sort of contest SATAIII or something like that on the United States. They had to sort of stop that pulse bomb getting into the back, because once that did, Fact Fiction had to, try and escape, had to try and survive himself. He's not going to have a Mercy to pick him up, and that makes all the difference in the world. So, everything to play for. The US have about 5 minutes. Let's see if they can do it. And so you can see the South Korean defense, they've changed up how they're going to be doing it at the moment. They've changed to the Winston, they've changed to the Diva, they've changed to the Soldier. If you remember, last time they had the Orisa and the Roadhog, so it's all a little bit different right now. And South Korea did this very intentionally. If you look at the United States team comp, you can see that they also made adjustments. They're running out the door using Jake on the Junkrat. Fact Fiction's actually on the Lucio. Don't be fooled, they're not running triple support. They're just using that Lucio to get in and out of spawn that little bit quicker. And so here we go, the gates are open, and you'll see the US, they run out, they scout out, they're looking at what the enemy team is running. Coolant calls out, hey, no, there's no Orisa, there's no nothing, so Jake instantaneously swaps to that Soldier 76 to try and counter what South Korea are doing, that instantaneous swap. Sinatra scanning ahead, looking for an angle, looking for a position, manages to get himself into this high ground position that is really, really nice for him. It means that he basically has access to absolutely everywhere, but it's very, very hard to contest him. Until Mano pops out, and even then, Mano's going to have a hard time tracing. Let's try that again. Mano's going to have a hard time chasing down that Tracer. So Sinatra going to be a constant threat, going to be a constant thorn in the side of South Korea, and he's looking for an angle onto Ryuje Hung, for example. He finally starts getting into position for it, so Zunba has to pull back on the Diva and has to come and start committing resources to him. This lets the United States start creeping onto the point, start advancing, and no one's died yet, but they've managed to sort of get there and get to the point. This is very, very clever Overwatch. It's very, very subtle Overwatch, but the damage is starting to be done. South Korea is starting to have to use cooldowns, for example. They start getting pulled in, and that lets Sinatra get a beauty of a pulse bomb there, taking down Flower. He's in such a good position to do so much damage at the moment. The United States absolutely have advantages right now. Both Mercies forced into using their ultimate, but Jake has tactical visor, so it makes it very hard, for example, to move onto the point. Mano does a very good job of trying to stall out and contain this visor, but it's just not enough, and the United States looking so strong at the moment as they do take everyone down. The Resurrects are done. No one else can really contest except for Toby, and Toby's not really going to be able to do that, so down he goes, and the US managed to take first point in a minute. They have 4 minutes now to take second point, and then if they manage to do that without hitting that last minute, they will have a huge advantage going into the next round. So everything on the line for South Korea at the moment. Ultimates relatively even on both sides, so this next push is going to be relatively sort of decisive. That said, the United States know that they don't really have to do anything. They have time to be able to play around. Flower swapping off the Soldier 76, going for the Genji instead. That's because Genji has much better mobility in sort of jumping around. We see Mano commit and managing to pick off Jake, and again, they don't really risk it. The United States taking it relatively easy, sort of just taking the time with it. They do manage to force them back onto the point, and Jake can get onto that high ground position, but Sinatra goes down, and this push isn't really going to start going anywhere. Jake does manage to get res and does manage to pick up a nice double kill for himself. Mano also uses that ultimate and manages to force out Raucus to use his. He has the Transcendence to not die in that corner, and now the US make a very, very brave decision. They actually start to engage on this fight. They could have just given up on it, but they decide to really start pushing for it, and you'd think, well, they're insane, right? Especially after what you just saw there. Zumba managing to get on to the tactical visor on the back line, shutting it down, but the tanks of the United States actually do such a good job here. They play it so very well that they start clearing the point, and suddenly it's all very tense, but this fight starts dragging on, and what I want you guys to focus on, even though there's all this amazing action on the screen, but focus on the B in the middle of the screen, right in the middle, right in the top center, and see that big word, contested? That has actually got very, very important meaning here, because what South Korea have managed to do is, even though the United States are winning all of these little victories, they're winning all of these little exchanges here and there. You can see Sinatra just got a pulse bomb. They managed to shut down Flower's Dragon Blade, for example. They still haven't made much progress on the point, because on Assault, you really have to win decisively. They're going to start getting something done now, but they've only managed to get 1/3, and they've had to commit so much in doing it. You can see South Korea starting to get a little bit desperate, perhaps. Flower bringing out the Bastion. They're really starting to sort of panic a little bit that they might be losing this, and they managed to even clean up the Bastion. Yeah, they managed to clean up the Bastion by now as well, but you can see Toby's going to be coming out very soon with a Valkyrie, and again, the point still being contested. It's still not really going anywhere. The United States committing even more and even more to this. They've managed to get the visor out, but there's still people in place, and Ryu Jae-hong with the absolute hero play, the RKO out of nowhere from the top rope. Ryu Jae-hong shuts down Jake, and that's probably what wins them this fight completely. USA realize that this isn't going anywhere at this point. They're not really going to be able to get too much more done and start to give up and start to back away. They have 2 minutes left now, and well, they didn't even manage to get a single third there, and South Korea still very much in control. The big surprise during that fight was the fact that the United States continued that engagement, that the tanks of the United States, Coolant and Fact Fiction, managed to get so much work done despite all the DPS going down. But South Korea managing to hold on, Ryu Jae-hong especially, doing such a good job on the Zenyatta, landing the orbs, landing the damage, shutting down Jake's tactical visor, really making a huge difference. Now the United States are in a little bit of trouble. They're going to be playing into a Transcendence from South Korea. They're also playing into the Flower, staying on the Bastion. It's a beautiful pulse bomb onto Ryu Jae-hong, forces out the ultimates, but at the moment the United States, they still have a little bit of time. They can basically make a choice. They can either try and engage now and get something done, or they can do what we call an economy push and try and bait ult out of the enemy team. You can see Ryu Jae-hong has used his ultimate there, has used the Transcendence, so they won't have that available for next fight. Coolant also committing the Diva Bomb as well to try and get it on Sebastian. I think it just slipped off the high ground, but did manage to get a kill regardless. But you can see the United States pulling out very quickly, realizing that, hey, guys, we got the Transcendence out of them. That's probably big enough for us to be able to make the push for the next fight. Let's try and get something off the back of that. If Jake, for example, can get into position, get a tactical visor up and running, it's going to be very, very difficult. Ryu Jae-hong does something very subtle and very clever here. I really want to highlight this because this, I think, is amazingly high-level thinking. Ryu Jae-hong swapping onto the Ana, he realizes that he doesn't have value other than Zenyatta anymore because he used his ultimate, but if he can land an anti-heal grenade, he can definitely shut down Raucus, and he can even shut down Adam. That extra healing that Valkyrie gives can really do a lot of work. So Ana can really do a lot to counter these two heroes for sort of instantaneous value, right? You don't need the ultimate, you don't need that, you just need to land an anti-heal grenade and maybe shut down one of these ultimates. It's very, very subtle, but it's very, very clever. Otherwise, you can see Jake, again, trying to set up on that high ground, trying to get damage out. If he can get that tactical visor, he can maybe shut down Adam. Zunba drops a Diva Bomb at this point, and I really don't like it. I think it's really a little bit too early. You just see the US back off. They don't have to do anything. They've not committed to anything yet, and they still have plenty of time. Jake managing to find a good angle onto Flower. Flower has to sort of come out of tank mode, or not even tank mode, come out of Bastion mode and sort of run away. Does manage to sort of get back up due to the res, but there's the tanks ready and waiting for him with a cuddle, with a hug. Hug using machine guns, but it's still a hug regardless. And now Jake can get into position, now that that threat is dead, activate the visor and start cleaning up. Toby does have Valkyrie available to him, and Jake doesn't quite find the angle on it, but enough deaths to come through, but it doesn't really matter. Toby's not going to do enough to be able to keep this alive and keep this going. Ryu Jae-hong gets caught out, and it's looking real good for the US. They just need to sort of clean up now. Flower can't really afford to stay out there in the open. Sabiobi eats a rocket, has to back away, and it's just chaos at the moment, but the US holding on, holding momentum, keeping it cool, keeping shot calling right, and there we go. And now we're in draw territory, ladies and gentlemen, as both teams only have 1 minute to push the point. Now then, ladies and gentlemen, there's so much to play for, there's so much pressure on the line, and you're about to see South Korea take a huge gamble. The strategy they're going to run is, well, you can see just from the screen, they don't have a Mercy, they have Lucio and Ana. This is potentially for two reasons, so I'm just going to pause it just to make sure everyone's on the same page here. South Korea are going to go for a very, very aggressive dive, so let me draw all over the screen because I like drawing all over the screen. You're going to see them all run out of spawn, and they're just going to go straight in this way. They don't know where the enemy is, but they're just going to go for it. Hope to catch the enemy out using the speed boost of the Lucio, using the Ana healing, and try and catch something out and kill them incredibly fast. If they have a good first push, 1 minute is about enough time for 2 pushes, then maybe they can get a Nano Blade up and running, and that could give them a good victory condition. It's very easy to use Nano Blade, for example, to destroy an ulting Mercy. It's not too big of a problem, but it all hinges on their ability to find a first kill super fast. If any of South Korea go down early, there's no resurrect, there's no safety net. They are dead and they are gone. Meanwhile, the US effectively has 7 heroes because Mercy, of course, can pick another one up. So then, South Korea going to leave the gate, and this, again, this is bold, this is brave, and unfortunately for South Korea, it doesn't quite work out. They all dash in, and they find Jake, but Jake isn't really what they're after. And honestly, if you try and dive a Soldier 76, he just sprints off, he just runs away. During that process, Sinatra finds Ryujie Hong, manages to take him down, and therefore that is not coming back. Toby goes down as well in the Lucio, and these deaths are permanent. Meanwhile, Mercy can potentially find people to resurrect. Unfortunately, Adam does get caught out. Flower does manage to find him, but it's still just not enough. As the fight gets pulled into an awkward area, the United States still staying relatively strong. You can see the kill feed just filling up with the red there with the new spectator client stuff. It's absolutely beautiful, ladies and gentlemen, and well, it all starts going wrong. You'll see Flower actually swap off here, I believe, to the Widowmaker. Yes, because he realizes that he doesn't have that nano blade available to him. Ryujie Hong didn't have a chance to get any ultimate charge at all, so he's not going to get anything done. Instead, he's going to swap to the Widow and hope for a couple of quick kills. Meanwhile, the United States probably feeling pretty good at the moment. They're sort of just in control, basically. They do notice the Widowmaker too little too late and do counter it too little too late. A rocket going onto him there. Jake taking a huge gamble trying to engage onto Flower. Flower on 4 hit points does eventually go down. They did lose Sinatra, but now Jake is in such a strong position to just stay out here on the sideline. Sinatra and Jake now able to clean up as Adam picks up that picks up the Widowmaker pick, no problem. And US manage to hold on. Everything is now down to the United States' ability to take this attack in a single minute, and it's going to be a big task. And so, ladies and gents, I want to draw your eyes again to the team comp. South Korea running the 3rd team comp on defense that they've run before. The United States have no way of predicting what they're going up against here. Flower picking up the Flower's only like 16 years old, guys. He's too young for the Overwatch League, but he's so in demand at the moment. I've heard that teams are going nuts to try and get a hold of him, and I don't blame them. This guy has such a huge hero pool, but he's so very strong. So then the gates are open. The United States, again, using that Lucio just to get into position a little bit faster to try and see what the enemy team are running. It's a team comp that meshes well against theirs. Jake can try and keep this Farah under control. And you're going to see the United States actually play very clever and very cunning in what they're going to do. They've identified the Farah, and so they're all just going to make their way into this area here. They're just staying undercover. Why bother engaging the Farah when you can just sort of hide away? They've got to be careful. Of course, there are the doorways. You can see that spam is starting to sort of rain through, but it's enough position for them to get a quick kill on the Diva. They are still going to be taking a lot of damage down there, though, and they can only do that for so long. Meanwhile, Jake finding a good position on the high ground. This is where Soldier 76 wants to be. He's a cool guy up here. He has no problem. Finds an angle, takes down the Tracer. There are United States are starting to lose people, but of course Adam is in there. He's able to pick him up. Flower dropping low. Coolant, easiest time in the world on that Diva to hunt down and kill that Farah. Huge amount of damage now gone for South Korea. The United States can just take it slow and steady. The respawns are in their advantage. If they can get a couple more kills and there's no more reses available, well, it's very easy for them. Toby, though, almost has Valkyrie. Crucially, Adam has his all ready to go, so Resurrect's starting to bring people back into the fight. But the US in a kind of good position, but they're starting to run low on energy. They started to use a lot of cooldowns, and crucially, well, feels real bad, man. Hopefully I'll bring up a slow motion replay for you guys to see that one, because Raucus got rezzed in just the wrong position, and it breaks my heart to see it, watching that guy die. Not the res you wanted, unfortunately, and could have gone so differently if that man got his Transcendence ready. But United States now starting to get a little bit overwhelmed. The cooldowns are running out. Sabiobi lands a beautiful bomb, takes out Sinatra, takes down Adam, and now Flower is back, has the barrage ready to go, and can start cleaning up. And it's just too little too late. Ryujie Hong again showing the talent that man has. Everyone in South Korea playing out of their minds. Both teams played an exceptional game of Overwatch. It was a little bit heartbreaking that it was a draw. I'm sure Stylosa has a ton of opinions about draws. I certainly do. But thank you guys so much for watching to the end. If you go back over this game, you'll find a million more things to talk about. You could focus on one of these players and spend all this time talking about them. It was such a great game of Overwatch, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. And I hope you guys enjoyed the review as well. I have been Josh, as one voice amongst many. If you've got any comments or thoughts on the game, I would love to hear them, and I'd also love any comments or thoughts on me, being on this channel and so on. It's a huge honor for me to do so, and I'd like to see those too. I'm sure they're all polite, lovely, and very friendly. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end, guys. Doodles.